let me tell you one thing that few people were asking earlier on, which is if you have a lot of items, right? How do you make your CFAs manageable? Okay, so there is an idea that is called as parceling, item parceling. Okay, where if that is done when you have a lot of items and your CFA model will become very complex and bulky and difficult for you to manage. So let's say here I have 10 items, okay, and these are I find it difficult to manage 10 items. So what should I do? Now we call this idea as parceling, and what you do is you go to your SPSS file. Okay, I will open SPSS, the data that we had. Okay, let me just very quickly. Okay, so I am opening my data that I have, and what I am going to do is I am going to create parcels because I have tested that EMP123 are reliable items. That means there is good reliability between these items. So what I will do is I will say data transform compute variable, and I will, instead of having 3 items that I had for EMP, I will call this as EMP underscore P, parcel for EMP, which will be what? Mean of the 3 items that are items of my construct. Okay, and let me also open the syntax file so that we will save this, right? And I will say, what am I doing? I am creating parcels for EMP, LEX, PO, and this is July 2030, right? And I will run this. So my parcel has been created. Now what I will do is I will compute, do the same thing for LEX parcel. And what are the 3 items? The 3 items are LEX1, LEX2, and then the third is we will have PO parcel, which will be PO1, PO2, PO3. Okay, and we will copy this into the syntax. This is my syntax for creating the parcel. Now what you see at the end of your data set now, you have 3 parcels. Okay, and let me just show you. If I take it here, PO, I put it after PO, and LEX, I put it after. Now when you go to your variable view, you see EMP 1, 2, 3. Mean of 5, 5 and 5 is 5. So I have done taken the mean. 4, 4, 4 ka mean is 4. Then 3 plus 4, 7 and 11. 11 divided by 3 is 3.67. So I have taken the mean of this, mean of PO. So I have created a parcel for this factor, parcel for second factor, and parcel for third factor. And so what do I do now? I go to my lead. Okay, I go to lead and I create a new file and I save it as lead parcels. Okay, I save my data file, save this data file here. Okay, and I now create my leadership factor with only 3 dimensions and 3 observed items, and I will call it as, now I will call it as lead. This becomes my lead. And what are the 3 factors, 3 things here? I will read my data. Okay, and I will use the EMP parcel instead of the 3 items of EMP. I will use the TO parcel and I will use the, okay, and resize observed. Okay, and then name unobserved. So you get E1, 2, and now this is my thing. Now what will I get? The problem here is because it is a 3 factor, what I will get here is I will get df is equal to 0. I know this because there are 6 distinct movements and 6 parameters to be computed. So I will not be able to get fit of my model. I will get estimates, but I will not be able to get fit of my model. So never mind, because I want to do it, I have done it. So I go to measurement model and I also save this as measurement model with parcels. Okay, now in this I will delete this construct because now I am not going to use all of this. What am I going to do? I am going to use the parceled dimension, parceled uh, sorry, select point. And now, because I am doing measurement model, I will press. So you see what we have done is instead of having that complex model there, okay, we will check this, we will run it, and we will see that we are getting this. We can see if there is something that we can model fit. Model fit is quite good. Cmin, it is about chi square by df is about 2. CFI, GFI are all right. RMSEA is 0.043, so that is also fine. Estimates. Now I get these as my estimates, PJ, IGN, and lead. I can take this again to my reliability, this tip, this Excel, and I can check my Okay, now you can do all of this and we will get same results. Our AV is going to be good, going to be good for leadership. For CPP it is going to be less than zero point 0.4, less than 0.5. PJ we are going to get good AV. Our CR will be good and discriminant validity will also pass. What have we done in the process? We have reduced the complexity of the model. Now there are two things that I want to tell you about parceling. First, please do parceling only if you have a really complex model. Okay, and by the way, you can do the same thing in your structural model. So you can save this as structural model with parcels. Okay, and remove these arrows and connect them. Arrows, assign the error terms, structural error terms. Okay, and label these. Okay, and when you run this, you will get the same. You are going to get same results. You will get your regression rates, and you can run bootstrapping as well, and you can check the report. Now, this is a good way to reduce the number of items. And if you look at the material folder, in the reading, I have given you other issues in items, other issues. So this first paper, okay, measurement models for latent variables and indicators, a review of human resource management research using parcel. So this is a paper that you can actually cite. And this is what the author is telling, that if you have 10 items, don't parcel everything. Now don't tell that, okay, sir gave us a very good idea, so we will average all 10 and make one item. Okay, like this. This is called as total aggregation. Whereas partial disaggregation is what I have done here. You aggregate dimension wise. You parcel dimensionless. Now this is considered to be acceptable if you have very large complex models. Okay, if you have large, like somebody told that there are some 80-90 items. Okay, now that is something that you can do and you can use parceling. Okay, it will not impact your results too much because you are still going to model the latent factor structure as you had done earlier also. And if your items were having good reliability, okay, then the underlying covariances are going to get captured even by this structure. So again, I am repeating, parceling is a good method to reduce the uh, number of to reduce the complexity of your model. It will help you in working with smaller data sets, because you see, if you have very large items, you will need to have larger data also. Even though I told you 200 is a good number, 300 is a good number, but if your number of items are really large, then you need more number of responses also. So parceling will reduce the necessity for uh, collecting large sets of data also. So that is also it will help you. Okay, and obviously it will simplify. So even if you just compare the two models that we have, okay, this is one model and this is the second. So then the model simplifies and your chances of getting good results. Okay, and if you want to cite, you can cite these papers. There is also this paper. No, this is for about quality. Okay? So this paper is what you can cite on. Okay. right? The next and I think the last thing that we'll do is just some of you asked, though it is not a mediation class, but if you are interested in reporting mediation results, okay, look for estimates, and in estimates you will see that there are, okay, I will go to that original model. Okay, this was our model, and when you run this, get bootstrapping. Okay, and when you look at the result, you will get estimates and matrices. What are matrices? Matrices will tell you the total effect, the direct and the indirect. So when we do mediation, we look at the indirect effect, which is nothing but the product of coefficient of this part and this part. So it is nothing but the product of two coefficients. So if you look at standardized indirect effect, okay, how can you report the significance of indirect? So this is standardized indirect effect, and what is it? Lead to CPB. So that means indirect effect of leadership on CPB. Indirect effect of leadership on CPB. So it is this effect. The coefficient is 0.08. This is standardized effect. And you will get two lower bound and upper bound. So when you are reporting your result, let me go here. When you are reporting your mediation result, you will say that indirect effect, okay, actually let me do it at top here. So you will say indirect effect of lead on CPB is equal to 0.08, and the bootstrap 95% confidence interval ranged from, what is it? It ranges from lower bound of this is 0.01 and the upper bound is 0.15. So it is 0.01 to 0.15. Right? Since 0 is not in this interval, we can say that it is significant mediation via PJ. That means PJ mediates lead to CPB relationship. This is the test. If this is A, this is B, this is C, then the direct effect is given as C. Indirect effect is given as A multiplied by B, and the total effect is given by C plus. Right? And the test of mediation is H naught, A into B is equal to 0, H1, A into B is not equal to 0, right? And so here we are seeing that this bootstrap result tells us that AP is not equal to 0, which means there is significant mediation. Right, so this is how you this is how you sort of test for mediation. You report these results. The indirect, standardized indirect, If you go to estimate, this is the estimate of the indirect effect, which is 0.0, right? And it also shows you this. You see, if you click on this, it says due to when lead goes up by 1 standard deviation, CPV goes up by, okay, and then estimate, and then go to this, and you will see the lower bound. It shows standardized indirect effect, lower bound of the bootstrap confidence, and the upper bound of the bootstrap confidence interval is 0.1. Right? So we look for, right. So you can test Lekha using both unstandardized and standardized. Usually in papers, it is a good practice to report standardized results. Okay, but you are free to report. You can test using both standardized, and the results are there for both. This is unstandardized, indirect unstandardized result, and the next one is standardized indirect. So you can report any of these. Whatever you report, be consistent in the paper. Usually people consider reporting standardized results more often. That is just a practice. So, standardized data are good enough, even if you just report that. Okay, so we have, I think, yes, who is there?
This is hello, sir. This is Subrat. Sir, in case of averaging, hello, sir. Are
Yes,
you able
yes,
to
go
listen
ahead.
to?
Yes, go ahead. Please. Yes.
When we are taking the average, in your case, you had three dimensions of leadership,
Yes.
and you averaged and made it to three.
Yes. Because these were items of one dimension, next were items of another dimension. That is why
Oh,
I averaged them dimension-wise.
but if I have lot of items, and in case of averaging, how do I know that which
No, see, this
which
parceling will be done only at the end. You have done reliability, you have done EFA, you have done CFA. So you understand the factor structure, right?
okay, sir.
Right? So you know which items load onto which factor. Here I
Okay,
know that which items are loading onto which specific.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me actually just give me a minute. I will just show you one of my papers, okay, where I actually did all of this. So this is a paper uh, which, and the data that I am presenting to you is actually a part of this paper. Okay, and if you see this diagram, figure 1, okay, this is where I have done parceling. So my leadership dimension. So we are working in this data set. We are working with PO, empowering, and leading by example. But my data had actually leadership scale had 5 dimensions, and it was a 40 item, 39 item scale. So what I had done was, after doing all of it, I actually averaged and did parcels. So I had a 5 dimension model, right? So this was my first order, right? Similarly, justice, as many of you may know, it is a 3 dimensional construct having distributive justice, procedural justice, and interactional justice. So there also I took parcels dimension-wise. Similarly, creative performance behavior, which is the third construct that we are working with, it was a 4 dimensional construct being measured by about 20 items. So I took parcels of all 4 of them and then I did single first order model for leadership having its 5 dimensions, 5 parcels, justice with 3 parcels, CPB with 4 parcels, and I uh, did this, uh, right? And I wrote in my paper why I am doing parceling. Okay, so if you look at this, uh, Okay. Let me just check. Yes. If you look at analysis, and I'm highlighting that, to reduce the number of parameters in analysis and maintain a reasonable degree of freedom for the model, we adopted the general approach of parcels, partially disaggregated indicators. I have just shown you what does it mean. It means that you aggregate only dimension wise, and the items measuring each construct were averaged to create a scale score for each respondent on each of the multi-item scales. This approach has been used in previous studies, corrects random measurement error and produces parameter estimates virtually identical to those produced by a pure latent variable analysis. And I cite this paper, and there's another paper that I cite, right? And therefore I mentioned why am I doing this. Then the three factors, this is how I am reporting my CFA results. A series of dimension level CFAs were done, okay? And the three factor model fitted the data well. This I showed you, I told you today morning that this is how you should write your results, that if model fitted the data well. And then I did two factor. This is another way of showing that the factors were discriminant. Then I say further evidence of discriminant validity of construct was obtained using average variance extracted. The factor means Cronbach reliabilities are they are all given in table 2. Okay. AV for each factor is reported in the parenthesis. The AV for construct was greater than 0.5, suggesting adequate convergent validity. Moreover, square of correlation between any two constructs given above values given above the diagonal was not greater than AVs of the individual construct, suggesting that factors have internal extracted variance greater than variance shared between them and have adequate discriminant validity. And I cite this paper, Fornell and Larker, that I have given you to read. The internal consistency of measurement model was assessed by computing composite reliability, which we have discussed. These composite reliabilities range from 0.81 to 0.92, greater than benchmark of 0.60. Some people, so I have written 0.60, but they are all greater than 0.70 also. And results are given in. So you see, this is alpha. These were my control variables: age, gender, education, tenure, job level. It is always a good idea to include control variables in your analysis. Then R&D, justice and CPP, then the composite reliability, mean and standard deviation, and then this parenthesis values, these are the AVE values. Then these are the correlations. So above the diagonal are the three squared correlations, and I have written here. Values below the diagonal are interconstruct correlation. Values above the diagonal are square of correlations, right? And then they Korsakov et al. They also talk about common method variance. This is not the class of mediation and regression, so I will skip it. But I did test it. We re-estimated the measurement model adding latent method factor, and we did not find. So this paper actually talks all of this. How do you tackle common method bias? But again, as I mentioned, this is not something that is. I will put this. This is not shared. I will save. I will put this paper onto the shared folder for your reading, and you can have a look at this paper. Okay, we don't do Sobel testing these days. You can do Sobel test, but if you report bootstrap results, they are much better evidence of, uh, of mediation. Okay, so we don't do this. Even in process, you will get bootstrap results. Just report bootstrap. that should be more than enough to your for your. Okay. Yes, you should always, everybody, I am repeating that parceling will be done only after you have tested, E- done EFA, done the reliability, done the CFA, and now when you are doing the final runs with large complex models, you then do parcels. You don't do parcels a priori because you don't know the dimensionality of your. So first, with all the items, you have to check the dimensionality, and then finally, so you see, I did the whole model without parceling, and now you can decide to go in for parcel model. Now I am sure that this parcel that I have created is actually the right parcel. It is the parcel for AL. The next parcel is for AO. The last parcel is for AEs. And then only you could go in for doing the parcel. Right, so that is what we should. Okay, so I think we are about there, whatever I thought I wanted to cover.